good day everyone. Today we will be having a prelim video assignment in engineering mathematics for EE. So let's start. First problem. So we have here two problems. So first problem is using the previous lesson that we had, compute the cube root of -1, then represent them graphically with k equals to 0, 1, and 2. So these are the formula in the Moivre's theorem, which is the lesson in the previous meet with our instructor, which is Sir Margin, and the formula for our nth root of z is equals to the nth root of r, quantity or the bracket of cosine alpha plus I sine alpha. And then to get the value for our alpha, we have here theta plus 360k over n. So let's start. So first, let us identify the value for our a and b. So since ang ato ang given is -1, it is only the a which is the real part. So -1 or a and b is equals to 0 since we don't have a imaginary number or imaginary part. And then find the value of the following. First is n. So since cube root ang itong gipangita, so our n is 3. And then r. So our r is, the formula for the r is square root of a squared plus b squared. So let's just substitute the values for our a and b. So our a is -1 and then our b is 0. So -1 squared is equals to 1 plus 0. So cancel. So square root of 1 is equals to 1. So our r is 1. And then the theta, the formula for theta is arctan b over a. So our b is 0 and then our a is -1. So if we calculate this, arctan 0 over -1, we will be having a 0 degrees. But in this case, dili 0 degrees atong gamiton. We will first identify in the graph. So we have here the graph. So to graph this, a is our x-axis, which is the real part, and the y is our imaginary part, which is b. So since ato -1 man atong a, which is in the x, so we have here -1 and our b is 0, so 0 ra siya. So diri ang ato ang graph. And then as we can see here, na siya sa second quadrant. So, ang atong gamiton nga theta is 180 degrees. So, 90 degrees, so 180 degrees. Next, the k. Ang k ani is more limit na siya. Since given naman ang k, ako lang yapang i-solve. So, n minus 1, 3 minus 1 is, so since n ato is 3, so 3 minus 1 is 2. So, 2 ato ang limit. So, mag-start sa 0, so 0, 1, and 2. Muna siya to ang k. Then, find the alpha values. So, first is the k is equals to 0. The formula for the alpha is this one from the Moivre's theorem. So theta plus 360k over n. Then let's just substitute the n and the k and the theta. So 180 our theta, 360 times 0 over our k, and n is equals to 3. So we have 60 degrees. And then for the k is equals to 1, same formula, and then substitute. So 180 plus 360 times 1 over 3, we have 180 degrees. And for lastly, for our k is equals to 2, our formula, and substitute 180 plus 360 times 2 over 3, we have 300 degrees. So ako siya gisolve daan is to discuss, to tell you that these angles will be used in representing our graph in k equals to 0, 1, and 2. So in 0, k equals to 0, ang ato ang angle is 60 degrees. Our k is equals to 1, atong angle is 180 degrees. And for the k is equals to 2 is 300 degrees. So in order for us to get the coordinates sa kaninga nga sa graph na to, maikuha na to yung cube root sa -1. So makuha na to in the next process, on the next procedure na itong gamiton. So karon, find the cube root of z values, so which is the -1. So for the r, Since mo naman to kuha ganina, ako lang gibutang balik. So, k is equal to 0, then mo na to yung pangkuha nga alpha values. So, for the k is equal to 0, atong alpha is 60 degrees. Then, this is the formula for our nth root. Ako naman itong present kanina from the De Moivre's theorem. So, the cube root of z is equals to the cube root of r, bracket cosine alpha plus I sine alpha. Then, let's just substitute the values from the formula. So, our r is 1. So, the cube root of 1, bracket cosine 60, since mo na siya nga ato ang alpha sa case equals to 0, so 60. Then, I sine 60. Cosine 60 is equals to 1 half, and sine 60 is equals to square root of 3 over 2. And then, the cube root of 1 is still 1. So, times 1 half is 1 half. Then, 1 times the square root of 3 over 2 is square root of 3 over 2i. So, the value for our cube root of z is equals to 1 half plus square root of 3 over 2i for the k is equals to 0. Muna siya nga to ang answer for the k equals to 0. Next is for the k is equals to 1. So, mana gihatol ako ang gibutang ang atong gisolve ganina nga alpha, which is 180 degrees for k is equals to 1. So, same formula, cube root of z is equals to cube root of r, bracket cosine alpha plus I sine alpha. Then, substitute, ang nakalahi na is ito ang alpha. So, 180 na itong gamit. So, the cube root of 1, bracket cosine 180 plus I sine 180. Then, cosine 180 is negative 1. Then, sine 180 is 0. So, multiply. So, 1 times negative 1 is negative 1 plus 0. Cancel na siya. 0 na siya. So, ang ato ang cube root of z in k equals to 1 is negative 1. So, muna siya to ang answer for the k equals to 1. Next is k is equals to 2. So, same gapon. Muna itong gikuha ganina. 300 degrees for the k is equals to 2. Formula given. So, cube root of r cosine alpha plus I sine alpha. And then the cube root of z is equals to cube root of 1 bracket cosine 300, since 300 naman na to ang alpha. Then plus I sine 300. Cosine 300 is 1 half. Then the sine 300 is negative siya. Square root of 3 over 2. So, distribute. So, 1 times 1 half is 1 half. Then, the negative square root of 3 over 2 times 1 is negative square root of 3 over 2i. So, this is the answer for k is equals to 2. So, muna siya ang tulo ka kuan. So, sa given sa kaning answers, ari na to makuha tong coordinates in graphing our this one. So, here. Graph representation. So, the legend nako is k is equals to 0 is the color blue, then k is equals to 1 is red, and k is equals to 2 is violet. So, as we can see here, ano siya nga to ang siya Cartesian plane sa unit circle. No? And then, let's assume this is 1, positive 1 for our x-axis. And negative 1 for our x-axis, then negative 1 for y-axis, and positive 1. So, let's start here in our case equals to 0. As we can see here, sa ato ang dire, k equals 0, ang atong answer is 1 half plus square root of 3 over 2. Kaning 1 half, mo na siya to ang a, mo na siya tong x-axis. And then, ato ang square root of 3 over 2 is mo na ito tong b. Kuan mo sa kanang sa complex na to ang number. Ang square root of 3 over 2 mo na siya tong b, which is the y-axis. So, makita na to dire. Makita na to dire. Ang ato ang 0 is 1 half square root of 3 over 2. So, I just assume here. So, madadiri ang 1 half sa x-axis. Then, ang square root of 3 over 2, positive man siya. So, taas ta. So, ang square root of 3 over 2 is approximately mga 0.8 something. So, padung siya sa 1. So, approach siya sa 1. So, diri. And then, sa previous, nakita na to ang ato ang diri. Ang ato ang alpha is 60 degrees. Man to siya ngayon ganina nga mo na siya tong gamiton pag graph. So, na dire na gamit siya. So, here 60 degrees and naa siya sa tuang first quadrant. So, mo na siya ang sa k equals to 0. And then, for our k is equals to 1, which is the red one. So, same gapon siya. Ang answer na to sa cube root of z in terms of k is equals to 1 is negative 1 naman to siya. So, we assume here, so, ang atoang a ato is negative 1 ra siya. No imaginary parts. 0 ang atoang y-axis. So, 0. So, dire then, since ang k is equals to 1 na to, ang alpha na to is 180 degrees man. So, mo na siya dire. Nara siya dire. Sa line nga x-axis. So, we have here for our k is equals to 1. And lastly, for our k is equals to 2, same ra siya answer pero negative ang atong imaginary part. So, nasa sa fourth quadrant. So, here, positive si x-axis 1/2, then negative pa busta. So, square root of 3 over 2. And here, and the angle, ang atong nakuha ganina for the alpha is 300 degrees. So, nasa diri. And this is the graph representation for our k equals to 0, k equals to 1, and k equals to 2. For the, to get the cube root of negative 1. So, mo na siya. And next, the second problem is compute the 3 cube roots of negative 2 minus 2 square root of 3i. So, mo na siya nga to ang next nga i-compute. So, 3 cube roots. So, pasabot na cube roots. So katong 0, 1, and 2. So, the formula. So, given kato ganina. Then, pangyarag yapon siyang process. First, let us identify the values for our a and b. So, our a here is negative 2. And for the b here is our imaginary part, which is the negative 2 square root of 3. Then, find the values of the following. N is equals to 3 since cube root siya. Itong kaon. And then r is, the formula for r is square root of a squared plus b squared. And let's just substitute the given. So, negative 2 squared is 4 plus the negative 2 cube root of 3 squared. So, yeah, square root pagid na to. So, the answer is 4. So, our r is 4. Let's get for the theta. So, theta is, the formula for theta is arctan b over a. So, b na to is negative 2 square root of 3. And for the a is negative 2. So, to calculate this, arctan negative 2 square root of 3 over negative 2, ang magawa sa calculator is 60 degrees. But, same sa process pag first problem, let us graph it first. So, ang kaning 60 degrees, kaning 60 degrees is, diri ra ni siya nga part awa. Ito is ay graph. So, negative 2a, diri. And then, negative 2 square root of 3. Let's just pilay approximate value ani. Naa siya sa mga 3.46. So, negative 3.46. So, here. So, diri. So, na siya. Sorry. So, ang kanira nga part, kani nga part is more na siya 60 degrees. More na siya 60 degrees. And then, since kuhaan man na to ang theta na to, kuhaan to sa itong theta is, mag-start man ta siya sa first quadrant. Wait, more na siya 60 degrees ha. Ano siya? 60 degrees. And then, since mag-start ta sa itong first quadrant, diba na first quadrant 90, second quadrant 90, so 180 degrees na ni diri. So, ang atong buhaton, atong i-add si 180 o ni 60. So, 180 plus 60 is natin 240. So, mo na siya, mga theta na to is 240 degrees. Then, k na to n minus 1. So, since given 3, so 0, 1, and 2, same ra gyapon siya sa last. So, 3 minus 1 is 2. So, 2 atong limit. Find the alpha values for k is equals to 0. The formula is theta plus 360k over n. And then since atong alpha ay ato ang theta is 240, so we have here 240 plus 360 times 0 over 3. Cancel. 240 divided by 3 is 80 degrees. Then our case was to 1, same formula. Substitute the values. So 240 plus 360 times 1 over 3, we have 200 degrees for our case was to 1. And for the case was to 2, same formula, substitute. So 240 plus 360 times 2 over 3, we have 320 degrees. So muna siya itong mga given values given sa value for our alpha sa k equals to 0, k equals to 1, and k equals to 2. So, kani nga mga angle, same gyapon to siya last, mo to siya tungkuan sa tong graph. And magamit gyapon po din nato siya sa solve na to sa cube root in each k. So, ako lang gikwadaan. So, find the cube root z values. So, for the r, we have here 4. Same, itong i-solve na to ganina. And for the k equals to 0. The formula for our cube root of z is cube root of r bracket cos sine alpha plus I sine alpha. So, same ra gyapon sa first process. Then, ako lang butang ang alpha na to. Itong isolve kanina. Then, substitute the alpha, which is 80 degrees for k is equals to 0. Then, so since to r is 4, so the cube root of 4 bracket cos sine 80 degrees, which is the alpha, and plus I sine 80 degrees. So, ang akong gikana ni is, since decimal point ang answer, 4 decimal places ito ang consider. Then, the cube root of 4 times cosine 80 is 0.1736 plus I sine 80 is 0.9848. Then, distribute, multiply this cube root of 4 times the cosine 80, which is kani 0.1736. So the answer is 0.2756. And the cube root of 4 times 0.9848, which is the sine 80. So the answer is 1.5633i. So the answer for the cube root of z in k equals to 0 is 0.2756 plus 1.5633i. Then next is for the k equals to 1. So the alpha is 200 degrees. Then here the formula, cube root of z is equals to cube root of r cos sine alpha plus I sine alpha. Then substitute the value for our r, which is 4. Then cube root of 4 cosine 200. Since 200 man itong alpha plus I sine 200. Then the cosine 200 is negative 0.9397 and sine 200 is 0.3420. Then multiply the cube root of 4 to the cosine 200, which is negative 0.9397 is equal to negative 1.4917. And the cube root of 4 times the sine 200, which is 0.3420 ang sine 200. And then the answer is negative 0.5429i. So the final answer for the cube root of z in terms of k is equals to 1 is negative 1.4917 minus 0.5429i. So this is the answer. And the lastly is for the k is equals to 2. The alpha here is 320 degrees. And then the formula is cube root of z is equals to cube root of r cos sine alpha plus I sine alpha. Then the cube root of 4, which is our r, theta cosine 320 plus I sine 320. Our cosine 320 is 0.7660 and our sine 320 is negative 0.6428. And then distribute the value here to the cube root of 4. So we have here the cube root of 4 times cosine 320 is 1.2160. Then cube root of 4 times the sine 320. So the answer is negative 1.0204i. So these are the answer for our problem number 2. So for the case was to 0, for the case was to 1, and the for case was to 2. So thank you for listening, and that's all. Thank you.